go. Hopefully this works. Yeah, this is
Nice
the
to
first
see
time I've ever
you.
used my headset. So nice to see you. I loved your meditation today at noon. I'm so happy you're offering that during this time. So thank you for doing that.
It's so good to gather. I've missed, we do it, in person in the studio. So it's the first time we've done it online, and it's beautiful to just get together, you know.
Yeah. Do you find
Yeah.
people are craving that more than ever now? That's what I was wondering. I mean, because for someone like myself, I have to admit I was more apt to try my best to make it today than maybe I had been in the past.
Yeah, right.
Just to
I
gather.
I do. I think people want to come together, not just to meditate or do some metaphysical something. I think people want to come together. I think it's a craving and a need. Uh, yes, I do. Yeah.
I love that. So you're a meditation teacher, and you're someone who I've studied with, and I really like your practices because I feel like they're very much grounded into everyday life. And a lot of the stuff you talk about is wisdom I can apply to my own life. And I feel like people are suffering right now. And like we've talked about, going through lots of anxiety and internal turmoil. Do you have any like very simple, concrete ways that people could incorporate either deep breathing or meditating into their everyday lives right now
Yeah.
in particular?
Right. I think just to speak to that a minute, I think there's always the stress and always the suffering in the background of everything we're doing, even when we consider normal everyday life.
Mhm.
And we find a reason, really, to be in stressful states all of the time. And I think because the world right now is asking us to be indoors and together and still together, it is very apparent where we're running in our lives. I feel like this stress and suffering is always in the background, and we just have a lot of things to cover it up. Food, shopping,
Yes.
family activities, our phones, the movies, whatever it is. So we're always running past this anyway, instead of just allowing it, looking at it, and allowing it to dissolve and transform. So,
I would love to talk a little bit more about that, because I think that a lot of people are feeling anxious now and they don't even know
yes,
why. And
yeah,
I think, nothing I've really seen, although maybe my investigations haven't been as thorough as they should have been, has addressed this. I mean, this, anxiety that I think is just normal now because there's no distractions.
yes,
So maybe we could talk a little bit about that, just so I feel like people can have empathy for themselves.
yes. It's a new place, right? We've taken away the normal activity, the busyness of life. And so what's left are the things that are probably always there and probably a little bit more amplified in stress and anxiety right now. It's a big time we're in. For sure, the virus is, it's nature, right? Doing nature's thing, and nature in its cyclical way is asking us to uh, stop,
Right.
you
And
know?
so would you say now is a good time to just be more forgiving with oneself? I mean, that's what I've found. I mean, I've, and I feel like I'm pretty laid back and relaxed, but I've even found myself, like I talked to you about the other day, going into tailspins occasionally. And I'm like, of course you are. Look what's happening. You know what I mean? Rather than beat myself up, which would not be helpful at this point in time.
Yeah, right. Yes, compassion, right? Compassion for yourself, compassion for everyone around us, because this is global now. So it just brings the focus to everybody. There's kind of a level playing field on some level, right? Um, everybody has the same worries. We might be worried about different things, but we all are sharing that same. We all have the same hopes and dreams and desires and fears and worries, and no one is superior, inferior, especially in this time. It's sort of globally, um, we're feeling this. So the compassion that we have for ourselves also reaches out, to everybody. What I know about compassion is that it has to arise from an inner state. So to just feel like I'm going to be a compassionate person and feel for people, and that's a nice thing. But my teachers from ONO Academy in India, where all the teachings and the meditations that I lead and facilitate, teach us that there's only two states of being. There's a suffering state, also known as a stressful state, and there's a beautiful state or a connected state. So at any given moment in life, we're either in one of two states. So now is no different. So you can either be in a stressful state. When we're in stressful states, we're in an ordinary mind. So solutions don't come. We just loop around in that mind. It's kind of like, feels almost like an addiction, because we're just trying to find solutions, trying to figure things out, stuck in worry and anxiety. But the teaching is to move from this place of stress, just to notice that you're stressed out. Oh, I'm stressed out. I'm disconnected. And to move yourself into a connected state or a beautiful state of being. And there's very simple ways. There's a practice called the Serene Mind practice that's probably very available online. There's meditations on the Breathing Room app that ONO Academy has put out. And the Serene Mind practice is only a 3-minute practice. So I do this all the time in my regular life, not just now because times are how they are.
Well, and I love what you said about just acknowledging the anxiety, because I know we had this discussion the other day, which is just meditating and pretending that you can detach from what's happening isn't helpful. It's like saying, I'm not going to follow the news. I mean, why? I mean, I want to be, at least, I know you're similar, attuned to what's happening and a part of it in some way and able to help and be of service. So just ignoring it doesn't help. So I love everything you're talking about, because it's about acknowledging I am anxious. This is normal. Everyone's anxious right now. This is how we diffuse it.
Right. So, and it's insane to just stay in that disconnected place. So the Serene Mind practice is just noticing where you're at in your day. If you feel, we know when we're stressed out, it doesn't feel good. So just noticing, closing your eyes, just taking a few deep breaths, like 3 conscious breaths, that you're aware of your breath moving in and out of your nose for 3 breaths. And then you're allowing yourself to feel what's in your heart. You're allowing yourself to pay attention to what's going on. Like, oh yeah, I'm angry, I'm fearful, I'm jealous, I'm stressed, just allowing it to be there. And then you're noticing with the mind, the movement of the mind. You're noticing if the mind is in the past, trying to resolve something, or going over and over and over that one incident over and over again, or the mind is projecting a chaotic future. So it's looking, it's just the imagination of the mind is in full gear, and it's just imagining all these horrible things happening. And we can say that about the world and the state it's in right now, but in our daily lives, this happens too. So you're just watching, you're just noticing what the mind's doing. It's either obsessing about the past, or it's projecting a chaotic future, or seeing if the mind is present. And then you're moving a light from the middle of right in between your eyebrow center, and you're moving a light into the center of the head, in the middle of your brain. And this is the part of the brain, when it's illuminated, brings us into a connected state of being, where the intelligence is, where some might call it the divine, but where the universal intelligence is. And you're just allowing that connection to happen. That connection, that universal intelligence, that divine hasn't gone anywhere. Our ability to connect into it is just as it was a month ago or 2 months ago. So it's a really easy practice, and you just notice and acknowledge what's going on inside of yourself, and then you're watching this light move into the middle of your head, and it'll move you into states of connection. And the more you do it, the more it works. And what I've noticed is that there's a tipping point that happens from doing it a lot. And then I notice stressful states and suffering states all of the time, but I can get myself back into connection faster. And then solutions arise out of this connection. Compassion arises out of this connection. That's true compassion is comes out of this. The right action, efforts that we're doing arise out of this connection. So first, it's a connected state. First, it's getting yourself into connection. And I know lots of people have many practices to do this. I just know this is one simple, effective way of doing it.
Well, I love that. And I think a lot of people would say, give me a break. Why am I going to meditate right now? I need to be doing. We live in a doing society. But I completely agree. I told you this the other day. I had an amazing moment where, yes, right action. I was debating between a couple of different things to do, basically projects that I felt like were going to help people during this time, such as doing these interviews. And it was like the exact right project lit up and the right person lit up, and all the puzzles just kind of moved together. And I think that's so important right now, because what I see is so many people are just in like a tailspin. Yeah. And they're so anxious, they are making mistakes, or maybe they're forgetting stuff, or they don't even know what to do, so they're paralyzed.
Yes. Or when you're in only fear all of the time, it's when you feel almost like your mind is being pulled in two different directions. It's what we say, like when we're all over the place, right? In normal times, like you just feel like pulled in all these different directions. Mm. It's an ordinary brain. When you're in that place, you're operating from an ordinary brain, which isn't, without trying hard, isn't really, efficient. It's not the most efficient it can be because you're in disconnection. So I really do know this, and moving from a stressful state into a beautiful or connected state first, before you do any action. We never know what's going to arise out of that. You're moving into the present moment. And we don't know what's going to come out of it, but something always comes out of that moment. We can't predict it, right? The mind's like, well, first I'll do this, and then this will happen. We don't know what will happen. And outer efforting right now, although it's something that we might be used to doing, it's really not what's happening globally, right? That our efforting, we're being asked to be still and be inside together.
Yes, and that's something else I would love to just touch on quickly, because again, one thing I've always loved about your teachings and your meditation practices, I feel like I can always pull bits and pieces and relate it to everyday life. I do believe that right now people are having a hard time being still. That's what I see. I see that even people have become addicted to Zoom or Google Hangouts, or, and I saw that a little bit yesterday, because the second I announced I was doing this interview series, like 20 people popped up, and I thought, I think it's great to be connected. I love these programs. I love talking to friends like you right now. I also personally, as someone that enjoys spending a lot of time alone, don't mind just sitting and staring at the beautiful skyline, or sort of taking this time to reflect and maybe get more in tune with what it is that I want to do with my life. So I agree. I think this is a time for reflection, and if we can just embrace that, things will be a lot easier.
For sure. Yes. We're out of practice, right? We're not in practice to be non-doers. We're like really bad at it. We're used to something else happening all of the time. We can't even we're so on our phones, and it's so instantgram, instant texting. We're always distracted. This distraction has become the norm of how we live our lives, a lot of us. And
Yes.
so we're not out of practice. We're super out of practice for being in a still place, in a connected place, in a feeling place, right? Just feeling what's going on. Like, oh yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I am stressed out, or yeah, I feel worry. And then just from that place of acknowledgement, you don't stay in that place, but you just acknowledge that that's there, and it'll bring you to a connected and a beautiful state.
And I think just to recognize that, and recognize that that's pretty much the norm. I mean, I think even if you're someone that practices meditation, I mean, we both live in the real world. It's like we live in a world that rewards busyness and
Yes.
productivity, and it doesn't reward just sitting and appreciating the beautiful leaves on the trees. And so I think that's what we're being asked to do now. And if people feel anxious doing that, even though it probably is what they're meant to be doing, I think they need to know that probably most people are feeling like that, right?
Yeah, of course. Yes. There's something glorified about being stressed out in your life too. Like, oh, I'm so busy. I have so much going on. There's something like, if you weren't stressed out, you're not, doing enough or participating enough or working hard enough. And I just know from living a life that way for long periods of time, I just know how unintelligent that is to do. All solutions arise out of a connected state, not just now, all of the time. And so, um, yeah, when I feel myself being stressed out or in anxiety or worry, I will do the 3-minute serene mind practice. I will just bring myself back into a state of connection. You're just acknowledging what's happening inside of you. You're just watching it. You're witnessing it. And then, yeah, you're moving yourself into connection, and then you're asking in that connection for solutions to show themselves. And they really do come, kind of your example, what you were saying, like, oh yeah, I was asked to go out and interview and it just didn't feel right. And then the invitation to do interviews came to you in a different way. And then your action of doing them arose out of that, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
most of the best things in my life have come out of taking time to be still. And I think that's it. I mean, they talk about the great thinkers. I mean, that they would go for 3-hour walks a day. I mean, just
Yeah.
to let stuff marinate and process. And so I that's the one thing I keep hoping comes out of all of this. I mean, the silver lining is maybe we are learning to be still again.
Yeah, connected. To just recognize we all are interconnected. No one is not affected by this. It doesn't matter, right? If you're rich or you're poor or where you live, everybody is being affected by this globally. And so in the pause of that and seeing that, it shows we're always interconnected. It really matters that that person has their job, the person who might be delivering food or working in hospitals, or like, all of us are needed and important, and no one more important or needed than the other. That's what I'm
Mm,
recognizing. you know
mm, I
I'm able
love
to
that.
see our interconnectedness more than ever. Yeah.
That is beautiful. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Hold on.